Trapped by the belief that I'm not good enough, bound by the limitations and the lies that consumed my world, this was me. It wasn't until I took the biggest leap in my life to know and trust the power within. And it was at that moment I made a choice. My past will not define me anymore. Hello, I am Teri, and I know I am not alone in this. Over the years, I have found that the number one mistake that we make is that we get in the way of our own success story. Yes, I said it. On this show, together we'll tackle limiting beliefs, self sabotage, getting stuck, fear, doubt, overwhelm, and the imposter syndrome. Join us on this journey designed to transport you beyond your limitations to a world where anything is possible. This is Talking with Teri. Hello, and welcome back to Talking with Teri, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. And I'm so delighted to have our guests on today. You meet people in sometimes the most unusual circumstances or situations, and you just like instantly know that you're just going to be lifelong friends. And this happens to be one of them for me. So, Andrea Lende is an author and speaker. She serves in her online ministry, Believing Him, where she writes daily devotions and prayers, hosts a Downloads from God podcast, and shares weekly messages of hope and faith. Her first book, Life After Lupus, shares her journey from sickness to health as she was divinely directed towards a path of complete healing. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you. Thanks so much for inviting me, Teri.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's dive in. Let's bring folks that do not know you up to speed of who you are, how you came to be, and share, this journey with us.
Absolutely. So it seems like a lifetime ago in who I came to be right now, but a lifetime ago, I was a pilot. I was flying airplanes and teaching people how to fly, and I was headed to the major airlines, and I had run into then some significant health problems. So I had an opportunity to overcome those, and I love sharing that message with people because I think so many of us don't understand that healing is possible. Like true healing, not just we get a scrape on our hand or our arm. We expect those things to heal, but our cells, every single one of them is up for healing if we call them to do that. So I love talking about health and healing, and whether that's body, mind, or spirit, and now have been divinely directed to be able to provide that help to other folks, and love writing devotions and prayers and just giving that daily inspiration.
I love it. Well, so share with us. You went from being this amazing pilot to going into these health concerns. Like, share with the listeners like what that journey was.
Yeah.
For you.
Absolutely. Well, our bodies will work for us as long as we take care of them well. And I was not doing that as I was flying, and I was, learning, going through all the ranks and the ratings and check rides and studying. And I was working full time besides. And so I didn't treat myself very well. And at about 30, the age of 30, my body just said, I'm not doing this for you anymore. I'm not working for you anymore. And my husband and I were actually in Hawaii at the time when I had my first sort of flare up with lupus, and I didn't have any idea what it was at the time, but we were on Kauai and just headed to the airport and taking off in that airplane, short hop to Honolulu, when I found myself, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath.
Mm.
It was, that sensation is weird in and of itself, but to be in a tube where you can't get out, it was
And
really
that's not necessarily a great thing when a pilot can't breathe. I mean, the two of
right.
those are not a great combination.
I know. Right, exactly. So we landed, and I told my husband, I said, before we make this then 5-hour journey over the water, I've got to see a medic. And he assured me that I was moving air in and out, but I'm popping Benadryl like it's candy, trying to make sure I could breathe. It's just very uncomfortable flight home. And that was my first kind of, I had no idea what was going on type thing. And from there, things just went downhill rapidly. And I was seeing doctor after doctor, and every med they prescribed I was allergic to, and every procedure was super uncomfortable. And finally, I sought out natural. I sought out a naturopathic physician who back then, I mean, this is quite a while ago, they weren't just a dime a dozen. You have to really look for them. And through that doctor, I found my actual medical doctor who worked with me for about 3 years. And it took that long for my body to fully regenerate, for the cells to make good cells. And yeah,
And here, and for folks that do not know what lupus is,
yeah.
because it's not necessarily widely talked about term, share with the listeners what actual lupus is and what it does to your body.
Absolutely. So lupus is an autoimmune disorder, and it presents itself where your immune system no longer can define what is a foreign bacteria and or something that they're supposed to fight as me. So it thinks I'm the foreign invader. And it would move around in different parts of my body and just cause lots of havoc. And of course, with most autoimmune, the thing that is probably the first thing and almost unmanageable is fatigue. It's just can't even explain the kind of fatigue that you have. It's kind of like if you remember moving out of your house and that last article that you left, that you moved out, and then you have to go back in and clean it, and how exhausted you are. You go to bed that tired, wake up that tired. It's just like this overall, and you just feel like you have the flu every day, like always waking up with the flu. So I was always seeing, no, not at all. And, I guess the biggest thing for me is I could not imagine feeling like that for the rest of my life. There was just too much of it left, so I never let that idea into my head. Even back then, I didn't know all the things I know today in terms of the tools that we can use, but I knew enough not to believe that I would be sick forever. I didn't know if I'd live. I knew if I did, I wasn't going to be sick.
And that level of mindset is such a game changer. We know, like
Absolutely.
I mean, there's so much research that is done out there about the power of the mindset. Any type of, fatal disorder or, chronic illness that, is a game changer on how we show up. If we think we're doom and gloom, we're doom and gloom. And if we think, what, I can fight this and I can beat this, it's a different, it ends differently, for those folks
Absolutely.
that know that their body can heal, so profound. And I think that just comes from that inner knowing. It's like, wait, my time's not up. Like, wait, I'm sorry, we're not checking out here. Like, there's no chicken exercise right here. Like, I'm going forward with my mission and vision for my life. So how long did you suffer? You said this started around age 30 was your first flare up, but how long was this before you were able to find I guess, a solution or a cure?
It took three years for my body to heal. And I did lots of crazy stuff. Some people wouldn't do what I did to get well, but whatever this doctor told me to do, I did it. And we managed, and interestingly, just thinking about mindset, the real autoimmune disease, the one that you're going to have, doesn't show up for about a year or two. So I was seeing this doctor. I mean, they knew it was some autoimmune. It could have been MS. It could have been whatever, like a whole host of different ones. And I just trusted this doctor, like implicitly. I knew he was the one that I was supposed to work with. And since I was allergic to everything, he had a little apothecary in his office with all kinds of high grade nutritional supplements. And those are what I took. And I literally didn't eat for 3 months. It just kept going day after day. I was feeling better, not ingesting and allowing the gut to heal. And then just started on vegetables. So I was a complete vegetarian for those 3 years and really for the next 10. And little by little, cell by cell, my body healed. And somewhere in there, in that maybe year and a half, 2 year mark, I was just curious. I mean, I saw this doctor almost every week. And somewhere in there, I asked him, I said, so what did my blood tests ever show? And he wasn't going to tell me because he knew once you put a label and you identify,
good.
right? I mean, I know. And by then I knew I was already, I mean, it was still an uphill climb, but it was a climb that I knew I could make by then. I knew I was on the right path. I'd get a glimpse of maybe an hour where I felt different, like better than the other 23, And so by then it didn't matter. I didn't define myself then by that illness. I just knew I was on the way. And I mean, remember somewhere maybe 2 years, 2.5 years into what we were doing and just clean everything, clean eating, exercising, all of that. there was this one day, I'll just never forget it. I cleaned my whole house and I thought, wow, I haven't done that in how long? Like I still had energy after cleaning my whole, it was just one of those landmark days for me. And then I knew like we are really on the other side of this and there's going to be more of those. There were plenty of crummy days mixed in there, but just that glimpse of just a little bit of good, gives you the hope to keep going on.
I am so grateful that your doctor did not
Right.
detour you, because I think sometimes we look for that title. We look for what is it? Our brains are so curious, right? And it says like, just tell me what it is. But
Yeah.
oftentimes when we hear what it is, it takes us off course. So I am so grateful. One of my my primary care physicians, she's just like that as well. And I love it because I'm like, I don't want, if it's not positive, I don't want to hear it.
Don't tell me. Right.
Because I know the power of my body can heal, right? And so it is, it's one of those things that it's hugely mindset, but it's also giving that place and space, and that opportunity for our bodies to heal. Now, some people might be listening going, what the heck? How can you heal your body, right? And I will say that, until I understood other avenues, right? I think that there's a place and space for Western medicine. I really do. If I go break my bone, I'm not going to go be like, hey, let's meditate on this, right? Like, I'm just not, okay? There's definitely a place and space where Western medicine fits in. But if folks are open, and just if they're open to looking at things in a different way, Western medicine or Eastern medicine, sorry, Eastern medicine can be an avenue to help folks. And, I always tell people, Eastern medicine's been around for almost 5,000 years, and Eastern medicine's been around for like 300 years. There might be a little bit different, in that time and space as we know and grow. And I think the optimistic element of this is that I know that more and more, hospitals and clinics that are open to incorporating meditation, yoga, holistic medicine, other options that are out there to support us and our ability to heal.
Absolutely. I had gone to so many that there wasn't a solution. I even had one neuro doctor tell me. I remember I had worn this red suit and I was sitting in his office, this red business suit, and he looked at me and he said, Andrea, like run, don't walk, get out of here. He said, hospitals kill people. He said,
oh my goodness.
I know. I mean, it was like my path was so divinely directed. He really did. He said, now I can do for what you're asking me to test you for. But he said, you're a smart woman. You'll figure this out. And I did, like, met the right doctors at the right time. Even the doctor that did end up really cultivating my healing and taking me down that path, I met by accident. I was at this big warehouse buying this. So I was on basically a liquid meal every day that was a really high grade nutritional thing. And the naturopath that I had seen, he didn't have enough in his office to carry me because I was going through one every 3 days because it was all I took in. Yeah. Buying it at the warehouse. And this one day there was this one gal at this warehouse and she started asking me about this drink. How did I like it? How I like the taste? And I'm like, oh, I love it. Like it was saving my life. And I knew that. And really, I don't hardly ever get that response. And we started talking, and she's the one who I got his name from. And reluctantly did she give it to me because she couldn't really sponsor a specific doctor. But I mean, every piece of my journey was divinely directed. And yeah, it seemed weird at the time. My family didn't really believe, like my parents. My husband was the one who walked with me through this, and he did. But golly, it was different. It was a different way to heal, but I believed every step of the way. I got different visualizations that came to me that were also a big piece of my healing as well. So yeah, if we're open to healing, which if we think about it, as I said before, or we get a cut, we just expect it to heal.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Like I so often that I had a bit of a scare at one point, maybe 7-8 years ago. Actually, might have been longer than that. And, my doctor had told me, what she thought it was. And I was like, I'm not going to go down that path because that path is not, I'll just say it started with a big C, right? And I was just like, no, I think my body, my body is so powerful. I
Yeah.
know I can heal my body, and so interesting enough, it was not that, but that's what Western medicine at the time, it wasn't it was a specialist, I shouldn't say it's my doctor, but it was a specialist that she referred me to. And, I was able to go down a different path and, and heal it, what it was, which wasn't that, but I just knew, I was like, no, I'm not even going to like entertain the idea
Right.
that this is something that, bad on my body, right? Like, I'm just like, nope, my body's powerful. My body's like, I immediately went there and I called a good friend and I was like, okay, I'm a massive healer. Like my body can heal, like, just going down. And I started surrounding myself with people that I'm like, okay, if we're gonna go down this route, I'm going to make sure that I'm surrounded by the people that's in
Right.
alignment with my thought process about healing, right?
So important.
And I
Absolutely.
think think there's two. I mean, I don't know if this was true for you, but I mean, were there people in your support team that maybe didn't understand what you were doing,
Yeah.
and didn't necessarily support it?
Right. Absolutely. And I couldn't really expect them to, because it wasn't their journey, and I think when we're in that pivotal place, when our lives are being redirected, we get to do that journey alone.
Yeah. Oh,
In my
that's
book,
beautiful.
yeah, I think we have to almost, and I likened it to, so in my book I talk about flying, and we have to go on this solo flight, and it's the scariest thing in the world because you've only been flying for 20 or 25 hours, and now you've got this machine around you that you're having to navigate yourself.
Oh, goodness.
I know that was scary, and this journey was scary. It was scary, and yet there was this promise that I just had this knowing that it was going to turn out well. And now I get to share that with other people. I get to share that healing piece with other people, because we don't get our struggles just for us, right? We get them so we can serve other people. And that's the beauty of overcoming these things. My inner person, it didn't align with the fact that I could be sick for the rest of my life. And when we're sick, all we can do is think about us. It's such a selfish thing, and we can't help it because we hurt. We just, then it's, things aren't normal. We can't operate. And I know this person inside of me was not going to allow that to happen, because I don't want to be consumed with me all the time. I want to be able to give other people and do that generously. So that's the beauty of overcoming, is we get to offer that up to other people.
Yeah. And what a motivation to carry on your journey is like, okay, let's not make this about me. Let's make this about, serving other people and helping support other people along that journey. So what would you say is like the message or the yeah, like what was the message for you that you received, or the gift that you received in this? And I know in the beginning of the journey, I would never say that to anybody, like, it was a gift. But now that and saw that you've come through it, I think that's agreed. We can all agree on that, is that we never, necessarily see the gifts initially, but coming through it, being on the other side of that, looking back at it and saying, wow, what was that for you?
Yeah. So I have to say, God really directed me back to Him. So faith was huge. We overcome these obstacles with some superpowers, and certainly one of those superpowers is healing, and being able to pass on to other people. Faith and really imagination. When we can imagine, what that's at home meditation, right? Like we just. That's just been such a huge part of my life, and gifting now is being able to use my imagination. And yeah, when we truly use that, I mean, we can imagine anything. We can imagine our way into a beautiful life. We can imagine our way into healing. We can it's the whole world opens up to us, even though this last year's been rough and all of that. Man, when we can use our imagination, we can just fly above that, right?
I love that. I love the imagination, right? Because that gives us that allows us to reclaim our power, right?
Right.
It
Yeah.
allows us to be able to create. So, if you were to leave a message or a tip or tool, a strategy for our listeners for today, based on your journey and the message that you feel called to share with others, what would that be for the listeners?
Sure. I think even in the the turmoil of what we're going through today, I would say get quiet and listen, and spend some time in our imagination, in your imagination, because when we do that, we hear the messages that we need to hear. And that could be anything. I mean, someone may have emotional issues, someone may have spiritual, physical, whatever the issues that we're having. If we can get quiet enough, I've never found the answers in the chaos, ever. So it's getting quiet and then listening and really spending time hearing and then doing what we hear. We can't just hear and then not implement that. So getting quiet, listening, hearing, and then just being obedient to that voice, that inner voice that we hear.
Wow. Okay. Mic drop, right? Way to summarize it up and to give such a powerful message to end with today. So how do people connect with you to connect with your message, to connect with your devotional? Share with that where they can connect. Yeah.
Absolutely. Most of it you can find on my website, believinghim.com. And I also have an Amazon author page that people can find all the books that I've written there as well, if they're interested in reading about my journey and or more devotions and prayers and all those kinds of things. So.
And you also have a freebie, and we're going to drop that down the show notes. But what is the,
I have a 30-page, I have a 30-page devotional that probably is about 10 to 12 devotionals that people can have. Would love to pass that on to whomever would just like a short read in the morning that would inspire them.
I love it. 30 for being 30 days of that. So a whole month of yumminess from Andrea. I love it. So we'll put that down in the show notes, so grab a copy of that. And Andrea, it is such an honor to have you here today. So thank you for coming and sharing your story so that you can impact the masses.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me, Teri. It's been a pleasure.
I am so grateful that you joined me for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, then there's just one thing that I would like you to do. Click to subscribe and leave me a rating and review. As my way to thank you, let's connect for a free consultation. Just reach out to me at talkingwithteri, that's TERI.com, to book your time.